If you're running a growing accounting firm, you've probably hit that point, the one where success actually starts to feel a little, painful, right? You've got more clients, more work, more deadlines, but it feels like you have fewer hours in the day. It's what we call uncomfortable, unsustainable growth. So today, we're going to dive into a playbook that can transform that very challenge into your biggest strategic advantage. We're talking about scaling smarter, not just harder.
So does this question kind of hit home for you? Maybe you're a partner who's spending your evenings reviewing basic work papers that, honestly, you shouldn't be touching. Or maybe your best senior accountants are just completely fried. If that feeling of being stretched to the absolute breaking point sounds familiar, well, you are in exactly the right place.
All right, let's start by just calling this what it is. What you're feeling isn't just you, and it's not a sign of failure. It's a systemic issue across the industry we call the CPA capacity crunch. It's that frustrating point where the very act of growing your firm starts to hurt.
And this cycle? I bet it looks pretty familiar. Deadlines are just constantly stacking up, creating this permanent state of emergency. Your senior team, the very heart of your firm, is spread way too thin. Which means, of course, that partners get dragged down into the weeds, doing work a first-year associate should be handling. And what happens then? Staff turnover goes through the roof, and salary demands just keep climbing. It's a really vicious cycle.
Now, the knee-jerk reaction is always, we just need to hire more people. But here's the problem with that. You're often just throwing more money and more bodies at the same old bottleneck. It inflates your payroll, for sure, but it doesn't actually fix the root cause, which isn't your people, it's your system for getting the work done.
So if just hiring more people isn't the answer, what is? Well, it's a smarter system. And that brings us to the real solution we're talking about today, making a strategic shift to offshore support. I want you to hang on to that key word, strategic. This is not just about cutting costs. It's about fundamentally redesigning your workflow so you can scale and keep scaling. Let's be crystal clear about what we mean by that. Strategic offshore support is all about intelligently moving the execution-focused work, the prep work, the data entry, the reconciliations, to a dedicated global team. But here's the magic part. The whole point is what this unlocks back home. It frees up your brilliant, highly paid US team to focus only on high-value work, like client strategy and that all-important final review.
So you might be wondering, why a place like India? Why is it such a powerhouse for this? Well, it's really a perfect storm of advantages. First, you have this massive pool of qualified, ambitious accounting professionals. Second, the time zone difference is a huge asset. It creates a 24-hour work cycle where work gets done while you sleep. They also have a culture that's really built on process and documentation, which creates incredible consistency. And maybe most importantly, they have deep familiarity with US GAAP and IRS.
This is the shift that lets you build a truly stronger firm. And let me be really, really clear about something. This is not about replacing your US team. It's about elevating them. It's about getting them out of the weeds and into the strategic, client-facing conversations where they provide the most value to your clients and to your firm. And this right here illustrates that division of labor perfectly. Okay, look at the column on the left. This is all that critical but super time-consuming execution work: bookkeeping, tax prep support, audit work papers. Now, look to the right. Your onshore team is suddenly freed up for the things that actually grow your business: advisory, strategy, and building those key client relationships. It's simply about putting the right work in the right hands. Of course, whenever this idea comes up, a few big concerns immediately pop into people's heads. It's totally natural. So let's just tackle the 3 most common myths head on, because getting past these is the key to moving forward with confidence. All right, this is always the first question out of the gate, and it's a completely valid one. You're protective of your work quality and your client relationships, as you should be. So what's the real story?
The answer is a simple, straightforward no. You maintain 100% review authority and total ownership of the client relationship. Nothing ever goes to a client without your team's final review and sign-off. The best way to think of it is as an extension of your own firm, like a back-office team that operates completely under your direction, not some random third party you just lob work over to.
Okay, the next big one is always security. We're talking about incredibly sensitive client financial data. How can you possibly be sure it's protected when it's being handled halfway around the world?
The key word here is reputable. Professional offshore partners, they live and breathe security. Their entire business model depends on it. They operate with ironclad NDAs, secure encrypted infrastructure, and super tightly controlled data access. To be honest, their security protocols are often way more rigorous than what many small to mid-sized firms have in-house.
And now for the big one,
The myth that just won't die. The idea that going offshore automatically means you're taking a hit on quality. It's a persistent fear, but I think the reality is actually going to surprise you.
Believe it or not, in a well-designed system, quality actually goes up. How is that possible? Well, think about it. The offshore teams specialize in process-driven execution, which standardizes everything and reduces errors. But more importantly, your senior staff in the US now have more time to do what they do best: review. They're catching potential issues with fresh eyes instead of reviewing work they just rushed to finish themselves 5 minutes earlier.
So, hopefully you're sold on the why, but you're probably thinking about the how. The good news is you don't have to flip some giant switch overnight. The smartest way to do this is with a gradual, low-risk transition.
And this is what that smart start looks like. It's a crawl, walk, run approach. You start small with the most structured and repeatable tasks. Think monthly bookkeeping or tax prep. This lets you build a rhythm, refine how you communicate, and build trust. Then, as that partnership gets solid, you gradually layer in more complex work. It's a process designed to ensure success.
And get this, we're not talking about some massive year-long project that's going to disrupt everything. A typical onboarding, from training your new team to getting them fully integrated into your systems, usually takes just 4 to 6 weeks. It's a totally achievable, manageable process.
So let's bring it all together. This whole thing is about transforming how you even think about growth. It's about getting away from a model of scaling through just pure effort and stress and moving toward a model where you scale through a smarter, more leveraged system.
And this slide, this is the payoff. This is what it's all for. You get predictable capacity, which means you can finally, confidently say yes to great new clients. Your profit margins are protected from those runaway salary costs. Your team is happier and less stressed because they're finally focused on engaging, high-value work. And all of that leads to stronger, more strategic outcomes for the clients you serve.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. If your firm is feeling that strain, that pain of growth, the answer you're looking for might not be in the next resume you read. The real solution might be in redesigning your system. The question to ask yourself isn't, who can we hire next? It's, how can we build a better, smarter engine for growth?